electric power, the cables, comes in above grade. It's called the power drop. You see those trees right over there where the main cables are touching the trees? It's not supposed to do that. Those trees should be cut away from the main cable. It's called the service drop. I said power drop, service drop. When I was up on the roof, I had some questions about the drip loop on the electric supply conduit, the service head, weather mass some people call. Doesn't seem like it's got enough pitch on it, and there's not enough of a drip loop up there to allow water to drip off of it. Water can curl back as much as 3 inches. And the angle is kind of precarious up there, but I feel confident saying that the drip loop needs some attention, and the insulation, you might even be able to see that from here. But on L1 and L2, if you'll follow the line, I got a close-up from the roof. On over there, if you see a little air gap in there, the insulation's broken, compromised on the service power coming into the house. We're on the east side of the structure. The electric conduit on the meter is loose at the top of the box. You see the gap right in there? Is that what I'm seeing? I'm going to get a Hail Mary, see if I can get a better picture. I'm vertically challenged. These 3 sides should be sealed around the meter to help prevent moisture infiltration into the structure. This is the grounding rod. Apparently we only have 1 grounding rod, main ground. Back in the day that was okay, but today we'd have 2. We're supposed to have 2 groundings. And the rod is supposed to be buried. It's not supposed to be sticking up out of the ground like that. That's like 6 inches short that it wasn't buried. I get that, an electrician can measure it for resistance and decide that there's enough to meet the intent of that. That's what happened at my house. And the code inspector was happy with it at my house. But the way the code reads, it says that that 8-foot rod should be buried 8 foot, not 7 foot 6 inches. So, this is the dead front cover plate. That's handwriting. Handwriting. This is printing. That's block handwriting. Okay, the manufacturer thinks that we should have duplicity. Manufacturer also thinks that we should have printing on this. It's an actual code. So you got the handwriting on here. I'm not going to knock them for duplicity. The condensing unit is properly fused. Properly fused. How about that? Now, L1 and L2, by today's standards, should have rubber covers on them. If you do not know that those cables are hot, you don't belong in this box. I get that, this cabinet, but now this is your main neutral coming into the house, and that should have white tape wrapped around it. Then we come along here. Let's see what we're going for. I'm trying. There we go. Now that's a ground wire, but that's a neutral wire. You see this ground and neutral are held in place by 1 screw? You can hold grounds with more than 1 ground with a screw. They're there for emergencies. Current goes through the white cables. So each white neutral should be held in place with 1 single screw, just like on the breakers. So we come over here and we see that that's not the case on at least 4 neutral circuits over here. 4 neutral circuits. That it is double lugging on the neutral circuits. See these breakers? These are called stackables. Some people call them cheaters. Cheaters. Okay, stackables. I get it. It's not a problem. Usually, it's not a problem. Except that the manufacturer's instructions do not make allowances for stackable breakers. This box was not rated for stackable breakers, even though stackable breakers were used. This box is overstuffed. This box is 100 amps. There's the main service disconnect right there. 100 amps. 100 amps is all that's required by code. But most municipalities, and I think Highland Park might be one of them, Farmers Branch is. If it's good enough for Farmers Branch, I guess it's good enough for Highland Park. Most municipalities are now requiring 150 amps. Just saying, 150 amps. Not 100. You can go back to code, 100. Okay, maybe when this box was built, you know, this house, I don't know. But this box is also cabinet, electric load center, service panel. It's also overstuffed. We've got stackables in here, which the manufacturer says is not acceptable. What else have we got in here? We got white hots, and they should be wrapped with black tape. If you don't know that's hot, you don't belong in the cabinet. I get that. But you're supposed to have black tape here. You're supposed to have white tape here. It's just what you're supposed to have. You're supposed to have printing there. You're supposed to have that. But what have we really got? Oh, and you're supposed to have rubber covers. I get that. But what have we really got in here? We've got stackable breakers, 100 amps. That's what we've got. We've got double lug neutrals. And everything else that I said. Oh, and these three sides should have been sealed. So I'm going to come back and capture some images of that. But we're going to continue on. This is the condensing unit. It's faded. I got some data off of it. I'm going to be able to look some up. I think I'm going to be able to look some up. But make no mistake, this is an old unit. They're engineered on paper to last 20 years. They might last 35. But statistical life average is 14. And this unit's using R22. So it's older than 14. Because it's using R22, there's nothing wrong with R22. They don't manufacture it in the United States anymore, and they don't import it. Can't manufacture it, can't import it. Yes, there are stockpiles of R22. There are. And yes, it is expensive. And every technician that comes in here and services this is going to rightfully encourage you to update your system. And they do have drop-ins. They do have alternate refrigerants you can use to keep these old dogs running. But this guy, he's already SEER 10. Right now, we're running SEER 14.5 minimum. The drop-ins are 10 to 30% less efficient. So you're already taking a poorly efficient system, putting a drop-in in, making it less efficient, but operable. And most any technician that you might as well marry that guy, because any technician that follows him is going to go like, well, I don't want it after it's been modified like that. You need to update the system. That's what you're going to hear. Texas Real Estate Commission. Is it performing the function for which it's intended? We're going to find out. I got it running right now. We're going to take some measurements here in a little bit. Is it performing its function, or was it installed properly? And it wasn't. You got all this loose electrical conduit here. Was it installed properly? Or is it a safety issue that you should be made aware of? And those are the things the Texas Real Estate Commission goes by. But I think my client would want to know that every technician that comes in here, every HVAC guy that comes in here is going to want you to upgrade the system. I think it'd be better if my client heard it today. This refrigerant, this insulation is all cracked and peeled. They don't use, well, they do. They're not supposed to use this stuff any longer. They're supposed to use more of a rigid type. But it's compromised. It is. And today, these would be anti-theft Schrader valve caps. Don't look Schrader valve up, you'll never find it. Refrigerant service port valve access caps. They should be anti-theft. And again, 20 years ago when this thing was installed, I don't know how old it is, but many moons ago when this unit was installed, the anti-theft caps were not required. You can see it's not sitting on its foundation pad properly. So it's not doing that either. And this foundation pad is supposed to elevate this unit a minimum of 3 inches above the ground. And we don't have that either. Then this is the electric service disconnect. They're not supposed to be behind the unit, but I'm really not going to call that out because you got at least 36 inches here. So I think the intent is there. But if you put a newer unit in, it's going to need to be over to the side. Just saying. This is the electrical, and it looks pretty decent to the electric disconnect. And like the electric service panels I just mentioned, they should be sealed on the top 3 sides. Oh, one other thing. Where's the water going to go when it comes off the roof? It's going to go right on your condensing unit. And it's still been running, you know, all rusty and stuff up here. You're supposed to have a rain diverter over the condensing unit. Is that everything?